Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we are going to find out who is the worst person in the world.
That's right, Johnny. With all the
history.
awful or good things going on in the world right now, we're going to find out who's the worst person that's dead.
Yes. Yeah,
Not
we're
currently
not
alive.
including anybody from the 21st century anymore.
We're going to do the semifinals on both the East and the West, and then we're going to wrap it up with who we think is the worst out of the finals, because I don't think we have enough to do I have done some diving on these people, and I'm running out of things to talk about with them.
I mean, we've kind of talked through just about everything we can, so this will probably be on the shorter side of the episode, but
I did find some new stuff.
Okay.
So we got it. So we'll just get right into it there, Johnny. Our first episode on the western side, we got Adolf Hitler versus Christopher Columbus.
Oh man,
this is a good one, and this is a tough one.
They're both good, but I feel like this is two of the more well-known horrible people through history.
Although Columbus isn't like when people, you've got the stereotypical, like whenever anybody is bad, you're like, oh, well, they're kind of like Hitler. But we'll get into it. I think this isn't going to go the way a lot of people at home think it's going to go. But we'll get into it. I'll start off with some more fun things I found out about Hitler, or some other things that we need to consider. So first,
Okay.
I don't think we can go on without considering Hitler's eugenics program.
Yeah, this hasn't been mentioned before.
We haven't mentioned it up to this point, and it was a part of the Nazi overall policies. Now, obviously, he wasn't the one doing the science experiments. Most of that was Mendel.
Right.
But it was his idea that we're trying to find this perfect race. So part of that included killing out anybody that had any, mental deficiencies. So like Down syndrome, that we got to get rid of them. He took twins and experimented on them to see, like, why are you identical twins? And if I punch this one, does that one feel it?
And he would inject dyes into their eyes too, into one of the twins' eyes.
Well, that's meant. Yes.
I don't know
what
to
happened.
see, just because. I don't know. Why not?
Well, and she did just tragically pass away when she was doing a visit back to Poland. But there is one of the sets of twins. One of the ladies that survived actually lived up in Terre Haute and has a Holocaust museum up there that's still up there today. But she herself has passed away. It's a little cool. Like all the kitties in Terre Haute in Brazil go there for like a field trip in like sixth grade, I think.
All right. Not like they go there for like fun on picnic trips and stuff like that, to like play soccer or whatever. Like
no,
but
it's
yeah,
a field.
your serious field trip where you go to like a cemetery or something sad to teach kids feeling and stuff. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, and again, like I want to mention it because it is part of his policies, but then again, like I hadn't mentioned up to this point because really most of that was Mendel that was actually doing the cruel and horrible experiments, and that guy himself is just a horrible example of humanity because
Right. Yeah.
it was that whole like what's that where you fall in love with your kidnapper? What's that?
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm. He almost was playing that, like he would befriend these prisoners and then treat them like hell, and then come back. Oh no, like it's fine. Like this time, like come back.
Yeah, so just psychological torture along with the physical torture. Yeah, I feel like we could probably go under Hitler and find worse actual human beings, but he was just the one who brought it up, started it, and then enabled everybody to do these experiments.
We haven't, in addition to that, we haven't talked about it yet, but his order, when Operation Barbarossa, which is when Nazi Germany invaded Russia for reasons, which is like, you could get into a whole episode of like how Hitler could have actually like stayed in the empire without being stupid, but that's
without trying to fight the war on two fronts against the largest land mass country in the world.
That has like
in the winter,
it's just like they have no infrastructure. So like you're gonna do a massive, like you're gonna do an attack that depends on mechanized transport on dirt roads.
Yeah,
but it's not gonna work.
Right. Well, and then what are you gonna destroy to like win?
The dirt roads.
like what do you do there? And so yeah, of course that's gonna go poorly.
But anyways, first off the bat, right off the bat, he said any of the commissar officers, the political officers, he said you capture any of those, they die. like without question. And then it got into the actual prisoners themselves when they were starting to get into the hundreds and 200s of thousands of Russian POWs. What do we do with them?
Right.
Especially when they started, doing the partisan movements where they're fighting behind the enemy lines. And he issues the orders like, listen, the Russians never signed the Hague Convention, so we are not obligated to follow the Hague Convention with them. So just go ahead and kill them.
You know, I'm going to ask what the Hague Convention.
So the Hague Convention is like it was a sit down where a lot of nations came together and agreed on terms of rules of war. So
okay,
partly with the Hague Convention,
Geneva Convention-esque type.
It's a pre-Geneva Convention, yes.
Okay.
And so like part of that was like we're not going to use gas, but then we did in World War One. We're not going to use weapons that that explicitly like cause harm, like shotguns, but then the Americans do. But hey, we never signed the Hague Convention, so screw that.
Well, there we go. So we're following Hitler's rules too.
We're not going to use sawback bayonets. You can't kill POWs, that kind of stuff. And since Russia didn't sign it, we're just not going to follow it.
Yeah, the rules of war that everybody set out once the weapons got awful enough to start applying rules of war.
And then nobody followed it anyways. So
well, yeah. Cares? Well. We've already produced all this mustard gas. Like, what the hell do you expect us to do with it? We're gonna use it. We won't make any more. How's that?
Yeah, we'll
stop manufacturing.
Yeah, okay, they'll stop manufacturing.
Ish.
So I had to mention that as well. He would also, like, when he became in power, when he first, like, what a lot of people don't understand is it's not like Nazis overthrew the government by will of the people. It's not like they voted their way in. They got, like, at the most 38% of the vote of the German people at their height.
Well, I think that's something that Americans get so confused by because we assume, well, Hitler was running against one other person because that's how all of our elections are.
No.
But in Germany, still, they have 4 to 5 viable candidates every single year.
Yeah. And when the Nazis did get votes, they would get more votes by, like, literally beating their opponents to prevent them from coming in to vote. So there's that as well. But when he becomes chancellor, and he becomes chancellor because they want to appease him. Like, look, we'll make him vice chancellor. It'll appease him. It'll appease the Nazis. They'll go away. But what happens is he takes this as a prime opportunity to light the parliament building on fire. He uses his Nazi parties. They light the building on fire, blame the communists, and then they're like, oh, well, we got to strike down on the communists because they burned the building down. And all the Germans are like, that makes sense.
So, like, his whole thing seemed to be, I'm going to do something and then just blame it on somebody else.
Blame it on somebody else.
Nothing's my fault. I take no responsibility, is basically what Hitler was saying.
Yep, very much so. And this is where he's going to lose a lot of points here. I think a worse person has that ability to instill that love as opposed to just outright fear. And so, since he's recognized universally as an evil person,
sure,
we got to take that into consideration. And part of that was, even at the time, the German people, they weren't all happy about Hitler.
Right.
And I found this out. He had survived 22 separate assassination attempts. 22 separate assassination attempts, including attempted bombings, attempted shootings, attempted poisonings, like 22 separate times. The German people, and this is the German people. This isn't like outside Americans. Yeah. This is the German people.
Not during wartime, like, military people coming in and trying to do it. This is citizens.
Yeah, this is, citizens and the military that's underneath him. But yes, his military, the Wehrmacht.
Right, the Germans.
And a lot of this stems from, when Hitler was in power, he had this thing called Operation Valkyrie, which basically was if the government got bombed to death, if Hitler died, it would put military protection in place so that the military would essentially take over command of the country.
Okay.
So there were several attempts by coups to use that as a means to assassinate Hitler and then take control. One of those was the Wehrmacht army, like in one of his bunker commands, they hit a bomb, put the bomb right next to him, but when it went off, the way the table was built, it exploded up and then sheltered him. So he didn't actually die. He just got a couple of, like, splinters in his leg. They tried to take over the government, and it didn't work, and Hitler came back. Like, basically, like, this coup, had the government all under control, had head Nazi SS officers arrested, and then all of a sudden Hitler comes out. I am not dead, fuckers.
hey guys, my desk did something weird. Like, they don't make desks like they used to anymore. Like, you think an IKEA desk is gonna save you from a bomb?
There is a if
Not a
you're interested
chance.
if you're interested in that specific assassination attempt, there is there's a decent movie with Tom Cruise in it, Operation Valkyrie, I think is what it's called.
Oh,
It's
that's
not
why I
bad.
know that word.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why you know it. It's not a bad movie,
I've
and
not seen the movie, but I've heard of it.
it gets most of the facts rightish.
Right,
So,
right enough for a Tom Cruise flick.
right enough for a Tom Cruise flick, right enough for you. So we'll move on to Columbus here, Johnny. I found some really awful, evil, horrible facts about him specifically. And again,
Naturally.
these are things that he did. So
Right.
Hitler made orders. The difference with Hitler and Columbus is Columbus actually did it.
Yeah.
He ordered it,
would-
and then he did
yes.
it.
Yeah, he
So
was partaking in the atrocities of it.
Yes. So after meeting the Arawak natives in the Bahamas in 1492, he described the encounter thusly in his own journals. This is public domain. You can read these. These are his journals.
Well, no, Tom, you misspoke. You said that in 1492 he was in the Bahamas.
Yeah, not
But
the United States.
no, he landed in. So was that like a different trip in 1492 when he discovered America?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
yeah, sure.
just a different one. Okay.
just a different America. Yep. he describes his encounter thusly. These are his own words. They, the Arawak people, brought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears and many other things. They willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built, with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them, for I showed them a sword, and they took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron. Their spears are made of cane. They would make fine servants. That's the important part. They would make fine servants. Yeah. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. So his first, I just met these native people in 1492 on my first voyage, and they have no weapons. They're so ignorant and blissful that they cut themselves on the knife.
Slaves.
and they're super friendly. They gave us everything they have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and he's basically saying, give me 50 men and I will take over a country with it.
The Bahamas.
And how do you
take over the whole Bahamas?
And how do you take over a country with just 50 people?
Well,
do you do it like you go in there and make friends with everybody? Is that what he did?
I think he's just like, hey, give me the stab me, stab me, stab me, and they're all like, what the fuck is this?
Why is it sharp all the way down? What the hell?
This hurts. This isn't like my cane spear that just kind of pokes you a little bit. His two goals, written goals in exploration to the New World, was I want gold, and I want slaves.
Spices.
Slaves.
No, my history book said he was looking for spices for the spice trade.
Nope. It was I want gold. I want slaves.
Well, I think he kind of hit a jackpot then with where he landed, because there was gold, and then also people already there who could be slaves.
That could be slaves.
So man, God really did smile upon Christopher Columbus.
And this is another entry in one of his journals here, and I have to quote this one. Let us, in the name of the Holy Trinity, go on sending all the slaves that can be sold.
There you go. It is God's will.
A young priest who participated in the conquest of Cuba with Christopher Columbus by the name of Bartolomeu de las Casas. I think I nailed that name.
No,
I got close.
Yeah, that sounds right. So he did bring a moral guide along with him to help tell him, hey, maybe we don't kill and enslave all these people and take their gold, right?
Yeah, maybe. Although De La Casa would write in his own journals about Columbus that, and I quote here, endless testimonies prove the mild and pacific temperament of the natives, but our work was to exacerbate, ravage, kill, mangle, and destroy. A small wonder, then, if they tried to kill one of us now and then. The admiral, speaking of Christopher Columbus, it is true, was blind as those who came after him, and as he was so anxious to please the king that he committed irreparable crimes against the Indians.
Yeah, I mean...
So essentially what he's saying is, these people, everybody knows they're nice and passive, and they'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, they're just friendly folk.
But we're killing and raping them.
Yep.
So why should we be surprised that occasionally they fight back? But Columbus, he was blind to this, and he just kept raping and killing everybody to please the king.
Yeah.
Who I have to remind you, explicitly told him, do not hurt the natives. Arrested Columbus after he hurt the natives. But then all that sweet ass gold.
Yeah, he sent him back and paid
send
for
him back.
it.
Let him go.
Yeah, he didn't give a shit about that.
No, he sure didn't. The last thing I got here is that De las Casas said while in Cuba, two Spanish Christians, he said he saw two Spanish Christians, saw some natives carrying around some parrots, and for fun, they took the parrots from those natives and then decapitated the natives. Why? You already got the parrots. Why do you have to cut off their heads?
I was lining up a Dumb and Dumber joke in my head, and then you had to decapitate the kids and not the birds? Like, what?
Yeah. Nope, not the birds.
I thought they were just gonna be mean and kill their pets.
Pretty Petey. It's not that. No, they just decapitated the poor little kid.
Give me your birds. Now I'm gonna cut your head off. Like, what the?
So I'm gonna make the argument that Columbus is a far worse person because, I point this out, he did it specifically, not just orders. He actually participated in the brutality. Hitler only killed himself, so Hitler killed the worst person in the world, right?
Yep.
And my second point, why I think Columbus is far worse, is we have a holiday that we celebrate for him every single year as a federal employee of the state of Indiana, or a state employee of Indiana, but it's a federal holiday. I get it off because it's a federal holiday. So every year, I get Columbus Day off to celebrate this pure, shining example of humanity.
All right. I don't know if you already said it, but I have some arguments for Christopher Columbus too.
I did already say
okay. I also agree. I think he goes through.
Well, what's your argument, Johnny?
Well, so my point, because my whole thing was like what Hitler did as far as the gas chambers and the experimentation and all this other stuff. But I think that's more a product of Hitler's time. Because I think if Columbus were alive in a time where he was able to gas people and experiment and do all this stuff, he would have done it far worse. I think he would have been like one of Hitler's men who actually carried it out. Because he was so excited about that they didn't know what a sword was. Can you imagine if he had like guns and shit and like, my God. So yeah, I think he's a worse person.
Yeah, Columbus is moving, and that's why I thought this. I think most people at home think, "Oh, Hitler's an easy win for this whole thing" when we started it. And I warned you all at home when we started this. It's not. It wasn't going to be Hitler. It's not.
No,
Hitler.
And Columbus this is not belittling anything that Hitler did or any atrocities. I mean, obviously, he performed some of the worst things that have ever happened, and was behind some of the worst things that have ever happened. But as a human being the worst person, Christopher Columbus was just,
and that's the kicker, the worst person. So you have Hitler, who at least thought he was doing good by trying to. It was wrong and it's awful and it's horribly out.
In his
but
twisted
he thought
mind.
in his twisted mind, he thought he was doing the world a better favor by weeding out the worst genes in the world. Columbus,
it was a long-term plan.
Yeah, Columbus had no guise of what he was doing was good. He's like, I want gold, I want slaves.
Yeah, it was purely
to hell with everybody.
Purely greed-driven. 100%.
That he actively participated in.
Well, and then on top of that, not even just, I'm going to go do these things for the gold. Like he's raping people. He's he's involved in the child sex slave trade and slave trade in general. Like
of his own people too. Like that's the thing. It's like his own Spanish settlers. He was selling their children into slavery.
Yeah. So his complete disregard for any sort of humanity at all. Hitler at least liked the Aryans.
Yeah, at least like somebody. Columbus didn't like anybody, except for himself. Well, we move on to the East, Johnny, and another really tough one.
That's a good one, too.
It's a good one. We've got Genghis Khan versus Vlad the Impaler, a.k.a. Dracula, son of Dracula. So we'll start with Genghis Khan. I found some more fun things about him. So he came from some poor means, Johnny, and food was always a struggle with him and his family. During a hunting expedition, he got into a fight with his half-brother over an animal that Genghis had killed. He took the dispute to his mother, who he thought, sure as shit, was going to side with him because, I killed the animal. I should get the best cut of the meat, right? no. His mom said, little Timmy, he
The
always
little brother.
struggles. You gotta like he's I'm gonna go ahead and give the elk to little Timmy.
Yeah, see, I'm the youngest. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I'm the youngest, and I don't see anything wrong with it either. But I'm glad my older brothers didn't do this, because what Genghis did is he stormed out of the hut, was a little pissed off,
Yeah.
threw his own temper tantrum, and then later that day, when little Timmy was out, fishing by the creek, snuck up behind him and shot him in the back with an arrow. He killed his half brother over an animal.
Oh, half brother.
Yeah, it's a half brother. It's half brother.
All right, that's fine.
It's not as big of a deal.
Like, that was just what you did at the day. Yeah, back then. It was a different time,
then,
Tom.
All right, well, under most circumstances, he treated his conquered territories with respect and would bring their culture into his, assuming they voluntarily surrendered to him.
Yeah.
However, this is history. Just take it as that. He hated the Jews and Muslims for whatever reason. And he treated them as slaves. and the reason
they've just never had it good, right? Like,
yeah,
throughout history, they've been hated forever. But why? Like,
okay, well, I'll tell you his reasoning why he hated the Jews and Muslims and always treated them as slaves, whether they voluntarily surrendered to him or not. His reasoning was that they refused to eat his food and would only eat their kosher foods.
That's it.
That's it. They're just like,
they're like, nah, I prefer not to eat unclean lamb or whatever kosher.
I don't know what I apologize. I don't know what the Mongolian people were eating at that point, but whatever they were eating, they weren't going to eat it, and because they weren't going to eat it, well, you're now subject to you're slaves from now on.
Well, at least he didn't kill him.
That's true. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the able-bodied ones.
So when he conquered the Tartar people, which was a result of revenge for them killing his father. So the Tartar people killed his father. He went on a revenge conquering spree after that, which, that's kind of sort of justifiable. I mean, they shouldn't have killed my daddy. I get it. Mm-hmm. He lined up, once the Tartar people were conquered, he lined up every single Tartar man, and lined him up against the linchpin of his wagon. Now, the linchpin is that center pin that holds the wheel onto the axle.
Yeah.
It is 3 feet tall.
Okay.
Any man that was taller than that linchpin, he beheaded. So effectively, he killed every adult male, well, everybody that's not, a second grader.
So, okay, so, God, how do we know how many? I mean, hundreds, right?
Yeah,
probably
thousands. Yeah, it's every adult. Like, think about going into a town and killing every adult male in that town.
I mean, can you imagine the spectacle of just seeing them all lined up?
And
and this is like the stories from Genghis Khan, like with the fields just drenched in blood. I mean, I'm sure it was like a line, and he marched them up, and boom, whack. Nope.
Okay. Too tall.
Throw it into the pile. Boom.
I wonder if anybody was watching this and going, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut off my legs."
there's people over the side. Like, God damn it! Come on, give me that knife. Give me it. Like, it's still not gonna help. But
you're right. I wonder. And the final thing I found out about him that's a little bit new is that in order to secure power, he would marry off his daughters to rivals. Which that in itself, that's normal, that's common, but he would force them to cast out all their other wives, because this is a time where, multiple wives is not a big deal.
Well, especially as kings, emperors, land rulers, area owners, whatever people of government, they'd have multiple wives and concubines and everything else.
But
normal.
Any husband to one of his daughters had to get rid of all of his concubines, all of his. So that way you can ensure that your progeny is the only one being brought down, which is probably why, 11% of the current population is related to him
directly.
but then after they would knock up his daughter, he would send them to the front line of the worst combat zone that he could find. To ensure that they.
Yeah. Well, and then who? Well, but then who would take over Their power. How would that?
That next male heir, Johnny.
Oh.
Weird how that works, right?
What a coincidence that kept happening. his poor daughters. Every one of my husbands. We fall in love and have a baby, and then my daddy sends them to go die so that we can have more land. What an asshole father, right? Like, although they probably weren't falling in love, to be honest.
No, they weren't falling in love. They were slightly above.
They were first being sold and then having their husband killed.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of love there.
Here, let your husband rape you for a while until you get pregnant, and then we're gonna kill you. Him,
well, the husband, not you, yeah. Well, that's Genghis Khan, so he's going to go up against Vlad the Impaler.
Bad dude.
Yeah, pretty bad dude. And unfortunately, with Vlad the Impaler, like, I could not find anything new really that I could that wasn't legend. That's the problem with Vlad the Impaler. He's so filled with legend. Like, there are legends about him, in which, after he would impale you, he would drink your blood. So that's part of the whole Dracula thing. But we're pretty sure that came in the 1900s after Bram Stoker's, book, The Dracula.
Sure.
But I do want to, just to give him a fighting chance, although I think at this point everybody at home already knows where we're going with this, on who's going to win this side. But to give Vlad the fighting chance, I want to describe impaling one more time. And do a couple other things.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
So impaling.
Pay attention, boys and girls.
Pay attention, boys and girls. While you are alive.
Oh yeah, I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. While you are alive,
he wasn't taking murdered bodies and then putting them on spikes like you see in like Doom or whatever. No.
While you are alive, he would take a spike, metal or wood, shove it. If you're a man, shove it in your asshole. If you're a woman, shove it in your vagine. He would then hoist you up.
I wonder why the discrepancy.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, women have assholes. They don't use them for anything, but they have them.
Well, I don't know, Johnny. But so, anyways, put it in there, hoist you up on it, where you would slowly slide down that pike until the goal was that the pike would come out your mouth.
They didn't know a whole lot about like the inside. Like I assume they thought it was just going to go straight through the tract, like one.
Yeah,
straight
like 1
up.
tube. Yeah. It would take several hours to several days for that person to actually die, bleed out, die, suffering the whole time. And while we say, yes, you're not really awake, but you're going to be in and out of consciousness. There are going to be points of excruciating pain, you pass out, you wake up, excruciating pain, you pass out, you wake up.
When the brain shuts itself down and like puts up all those protective barriers of, oh shit, like shock type stuff, you broke your leg and your bone's sticking out and you look at it and you're like, oh shit, I'm going to try to walk on this. Like, it does that, but then it has to check back in to see if everything's okay every once in a while. And when these brains checked back in to see if everything was okay, it wasn't. It was about halfway up.
No, it wasn't. Think of your blue screen of death from Windows, and like the computer has to restart, and it restarts, and it goes, oh shit, there's still the error there. Another blue screen of death. There's that split second where it's registering the error.
Oh god, yeah. That's why it shut down last time.
And I have to point this out again to give Vlad another fighting chance. He specifically did this to strike the fear in his enemy's heart for no other reason. He wanted the Muslims, again, to fear him. Like, he wanted his reputation to precede him. That's why he, in one day, took 20,000 Muslim POWs and impaled them and lined a road with them. 20,000 as he was retreating out of the Ottoman Empire. So,
assuming they packed them real tight, like 3 feet.
That's like miles.
Let's call it 2 feet. They smashed them in there together. 2 feet, 20,000. That's
got to be at least
40,000 feet. So that's
of just bodies.
7 to 8 miles
of just bodies.
Because a mile is what, 5,250 whatever feet.
I don't know, Johnny. You're the scientist.
It is, but in any case, good God.
I have to also reiterate that that he was a Christian, and as a Christian, as a Christian with strong moral conviction, he believed firmly that women should not have premarital relations.
Oh, that would be a
So
sin.
it's a sin.
We can't sin,
and
can we?
And it's a mortal sin. And if that woman was caught having premarital relations, she would be impaled. No questions asked, just impaled. The guy that was having those relations, now you're fine. But the woman, she gets impaled. And if that woman was pregnant or had the baby, he was known to impale the baby, spike the baby to the mother's breast, and then impale the mom.
Oh, that's nice. Togetherness.
Okay,
so he does have a heart.
Just just awful human being.
Okay, so did he kill anybody any other ways? Like, I get, he's,
yes,
I am Vlad the Impaler, and I impaled people. I get that. But, like, I don't know, dude. Like, eventually the effect's going to wear off.
He did boil them alive a couple of times.
Okay, there we go.
There's some skinning, but Genghis did those things too, so.
Right, yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think Vlad against just about anybody else has a really, really good shot.
Okay. So I would say if I put Vlad up against Christopher Columbus, I'm making Vlad the worst person.
I think you would have an argument there. I think you would have an argument
because of the intentional cruelty and the brutality in which he still didn't kill that. Like, from all the records I could find, it was around between like 200,000 to like 500,000 people is what they estimate him killing, and while that's a lot, Columbus did that.
Yeah, I think also it's not just he killed them. He wasn't Genghis Khan lining them up and cutting their heads off. It was torture. He tortured and then killed them. And so there's an additional bit of evilness in that alone.
But we have to again. Why I'm going to put Genghis above it is Genghis is pure number brutality.
Yeah.
I mean. Like,
he caused a drop in the carbon dioxide levels of Earth.
Yes.
A visible drop due to the number of humans he killed.
Yeah, there's that. And it's not like he was friendly when he killed them. There was also horrendous levels of torture. He poured molten silver in people's eyes and ears.
That's worse than many things.
Yeah, he also boiled people alive. He also skinned them alive, beheading them. Like, his level of brutality was also way up there. Plus, he did it a lot more.
Right.
And also by his own hand, too.
Yeah, he took part and then also enabled a bunch. And, like, while, again, he gets that whole, it's kind of good. He lets, not every village he conquered he razed to the ground or anything. It's like he let some of them stay. But, again, it wasn't hey, come join my country and we'll all be great. It's, you're going to come and do everything that I say, exactly how I say, and, declare your loyalty to me and me alone, or I will kill all of you.
And, yes, all of you. All of you. Women,
everyone. Women, children,
men,
everything.
Everybody. And while he does adopt some of their cultures and such, it's like, I'll adopt the things I like.
Yeah, that's more of just stealing more things that you like. That's pillaging.
Yeah, that's
pillaging cultures. Yeah. Like, he's not saying you can still practice your culture. It's saying, I like tacos, so we're going to go ahead and take that from your culture if he were in, Mexico.
Yeah. So we've got him, we're in agreement that obviously Genghis Khan.
Yeah, I think Genghis Khan. So we have our final matchup,
with Genghis and Christopher Columbus. And there's nothing. I don't have anything. I didn't hold anything back. I don't have anything else to talk about. I think it's just a discussion of really. I think I know where I want to go with it, Johnny. I don't know about you, but
I actually don't. I'm actually these are two of the people who I have long considered to be some of the worst people in the world. They were two names that when we were coming up with a list I came up with right off the bat. And so I don't really have a clear winner in my head.
So in some regards, I think my initial gut instinct is like Genghis Khan right off the bat has to be the worst person because of the carbon dioxide drop, because everybody's like practically related to him. The numbers that he killed is astronomical, and like short of comparing him to Mao, where he inadvertently killed the most people because he starved them all, like Genghis killed the next most people by pure brutality.
Yeah, on purpose, wanting
on
to do it.
purpose, for conquest, like no other reason. And
Yeah.
Columbus was also personal. So really, in that regards, you got to give it to Genghis Khan because he was much more successful.
Right.
But then there's the whole, we have a holiday celebrating Christopher Columbus.
Sure, I don't know. I'm not sure that makes him a worse person, though. I think that just makes America kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Because my thing with Christopher Columbus was he actually committed genocide. Now,
Yes.
I don't know if Genghis Khan happened to have committed genocide when he was making his way through all of Mongolia, because I don't know anything about what tribes or peoples or anything else they had there.
Yeah, well, yes, he did, but it's like, I guess you got to ask yourself the question, which is worse? Unmitigated slaughter, like I just will slaughter anybody, or like focused slaughter? Because Columbus, he really didn't care about the Spanish. He was focused on natives. These people are below me. They're a lesser species. I will kill them. Genghis Khan was.
Well, and I think the difference there is it was invading a completely foreign country where it's like me and my 100 men or whatever versus whatever people happen to be here, versus Genghis Khan, in a landlocked country, expanding his armies and battles and everything. And so it's not like Christopher Columbus set out to commit genocide. He happened to with what he was doing. If Genghis Khan went to another country and there were people there that said no, we're not going to
oppose to him,
he would have committed genocide. So it wasn't like a choice he made. So so I kind of talked myself out of that argument with Christopher Columbus.
Columbus, yeah. I hate Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, no, but I think a lot of our hate comes from the fact that he's celebrated every single year.
And the thing is, I'm pretty sure like there are monuments to Genghis Khan in what was Mongolia. The Russian people feared him so much that they forbid, speaking his name, teaching about him, any of his culture, because they feared that his popularity would overrule communism. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to go with Genghis.
I think so too. And I think, we talk about like, so much of the population is descendants of him, as though it was just something that, he was rolling around the country raping people and happened to rape people a lot. Like, it was a constructed thing that he was doing. He was trying to propagate as much of his offspring as possible. It was rape after rape after rape after rape, where he's trying to
and then he would take those children. He would take those children from said rapes, the little women's, and he would pawn them out to have them procreate even more.
Yeah.
So it was a systematic
because he wanted to be he saw himself as
a god.
He's here I am on your earth and I'm spreading my children. So I think Genghis Khan.
I think Genghis Khan has to be the world's worst person that I think has ever lived.
And you know what? Top 4? Genghis, Vlad, Christopher, Hitler.
So, I'd agree with. I would agree with that.
I think Hitler's our 4th worst person in the world.
And again, it's not to say that white dudes. It's not saying 2 white dudes think Hitler's okay. Like, we don't. He's awful. But
God. Yeah.
But when we did this, when we set out on this adventure here, this month-long adventure, I wanted, like, everybody, anytime any American politician is bad, we compare him to Hitler. Anytime anybody that you don't like says something slightly fascist, you say, oh, it's fascist, oh, you're a Nazi, or whatever. And to a degree, that has merit.
Well, it's one of those things that sometimes when you say it, it's true. But a lot of times when you say it, you're grasping at straws, or it's hyperbole, or you're going too far.
Or you're weakening how bad the Nazis were.
Right,
And if we were talking about a group of, like, who is the group of the worst people besides Americans, I would say it was Hitler and the Nazis.
Yeah. Hitler's Nazi party. Because again, like I said, I think there are people who are worse than Hitler that were working underneath Hitler, conducting the experiments and doing everything else.
Mendel was far worse than Hitler himself. Goebbels was far worse than Hitler himself. Himmler was far worse than Hitler himself in regards to actual brutality that they themselves imposed. I mean, but granted, they're all acting on his orders, so I mean, it's this toss-up of who's worse, the one giving the orders or the ones following through with it.
Right.
I'd make the argument the one following through with it are worse because, like,
it's a lot easier to tell somebody to do something than it is to do it.
Right.
I can tell you to go kill somebody. I'm not gonna do it. I can't kill somebody. But I can tell somebody like you
and there
do
are
it,
definitely
and then it's
people. Yeah, there are definitely people that wouldn't do it and didn't do it and got killed for it for their
thrown into camp. Like didn't he thrown into concentration camps?
Yeah.
But in any case, I think Genghis Khan is our world's worst person.
Yeah, and your chances are at home you might be related to him.
All right, that's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about a surprise subject.